Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm sharing a layout I've designed for Peartree Cutfiles, and I'm using the Snowdrops file from the February release. So I love this file, mainly because I asked Marie to make it for me. She always asks the DT girls if there's any files we'd like, and I sent her a terrible drawing that I'd done on my phone and said, could you work your magic with this please and turn it into a cut file? And she did, and she's done an amazing job. It is exactly what I was after, so I'm really touched that she's done that. So couldn't help but make sure it was the first one I cut from the February release, and couldn't wait to get going with it. So I started off with the idea that I wanted to back the letters of my cut file with this. This is a floral patterned paper. It's from a Simple Stories collection. I think it was called Winter Cottage. It was one of the Christmas collections. I think it's meant to be like white poinsettias and holly leaves on the design. I'm not really doing a Christmassy layout, but because I'm cutting the letters out of it, you couldn't really tell what flowers they were. And I really love this pattern paper. I think it's so pretty. So I've gone with it, even though it's Christmassy. And my plan was to back all of the letters with this patterned paper. Now I've drawn round each letter individually, and I'm cutting them out exactly to size because my initial plan was to stick the cut file down flat on my layout and raise the letters up onto foam pads. Had I have thought about this before turning my silhouette machine off, I would have just popped this pattern paper through the machine and cut the letters, but I'd already closed the Silhouette studio down before I decided what I was going to do, so it would have been impossible to resize the file and get it exactly right. So it worked out easier just to draw around all the letters and cut them out individually. So I'll skip through the rest of that. You get the gist. You don't need to sit here watching me cut loads of letters out. So there we go, that's all the letters cut out, and I'm just popping them back in to see how they look. Like I said, I'm planning on raising those up onto foam pads. Once I put my photos into position, I'm not 100% sold on it. Not entirely happy that they look right. So I take them all back out for now and decide to just focus on the rest of my cut file. I'm planning on backing all the petals with vellum, and I just was about to do that when I realised I needed to paint my cut file first, otherwise I'll be painting the vellum as well. So I've pulled out a couple of my Cosmic Shimmer iridescent watercolour paints. I've got two different shades of green here. So one is called Golden Pear and the other one is Golden Malachite. And they're solid paints, so you have to add water to them to activate them. And I'm just applying them with a paintbrush to all of the stems and leaves. And as my brush approaches the flower heads, I'm just using my finger to smudge it down slightly, just to kind of fade it out, because I'm not going to paint the flower heads, so I don't want there to be a really sort of harsh line where the green ends. So I'm just using my fingertip just to smudge that bit down and fade it out nicely. So I'm just going to go over first of all with the Golden Pear, which is the lighter green, and then I'll come back in with the darker green and just add a few areas here and there and smudge that down with my finger, just to add a bit of variation and shading so that it's not all quite so flat and plain being one colour. So there we go, as I said, just dabbing a bit of the darker green on and just smudging it with my finger, and that just adds a bit more interest to the file. And then just off camera I'm going to dry that with my heat gun, and then using just an offcut of vellum here, I'm just backing all of the flower heads so that the petals have a lovely kind of frosted appearance. When we went out on this particular day and found all the snowdrops, it'd been raining and they were beautiful. They were all covered in raindrops and they just looked absolutely beautiful. They were like frosty and glimmering with the sun, and they looked so pretty. So that's why I've decided to use the vellum here to kind of give them that frosted appearance. So I just applied glue to the back of my cut file and then stuck that down onto the vellum and just sort of cut it out really roughly. I did that for each one, and then I'm just going to go around with the scissors and just trim those down to make them a bit more perfect. So there we go, that's all done, and that's my flowers finished. So I'm bringing those letters back in. Still undecided on those and whether they work or not. So off camera I have decided to back my letters with vellum as well. I wanted to add some mixed media to my background, so I know that the mixed media is going to show through. So I backed it with vellum and thought I'd leave it at that for now and see how it looked. So for my background, I'm just simply adding some Distress Oxide in broken china. I didn't want to do anything heavier because I wanted it to be quite a soft background. So I'm just using a foam blending tool and applying the Distress Oxide. Now I've sped it up so it's a bit hard to see, but once I've popped the foam pad on the ink, I'm dabbing it onto the tissue before bringing it onto my page, just to get any excess off, because I do find I can be a little heavy-handed with these. Even here you can see where there's some darker shades and some lighter shades. I'm not too worried about it on this because I know that the cut file is going to sit on top of it and will cover that shading up, but the tissue is there just to get a bit of the excess off. So for now I've just done behind the word snowdrops, and now I've decided that because I've applied the vellum, those letters might actually look okay underneath that, because the vellum will kind of soften the colours a bit, and I actually really like how that's turned out. There is some dark areas in my photos, so I don't mind that the letters are a little bit dark, but without that vellum they just looked too dark for me. So just that vellum softens them up a little bit, and I'm just having to be careful when applying the glue because I cut those letters exactly to size, so there's no margin for error when it comes to sticking them back down. So I'm really applying just the tiniest bit of glue and then using my kitchen towel to dab up any excess. Normally if I was going to back a cut file with letters, I would trim them slightly bigger than I need them, just to give you that leeway to stick them down, but I have nothing on this, so just trying to be very careful. So now that's done, I'm much happier with those letters. They're not quite as harsh on the page, and the blue is looking quite soft underneath and just showing through. So much happier with that now. But I've decided that I need some more mixed media. I wanted that blue to show just above my photos a little bit higher. So I'm just coming back in with the blending tool and adding a bit more at the top there. In hindsight, probably a bit pointless because a lot of it does get covered up, but you can still see a small amount around my photos, so it probably was worth it, but I could have come out a bit further. Now I'll have to apologise here because the next part of my footage somehow has become corrupted on my phone. It's displaying as an image and not a video, and it won't even let me open it, let alone play it. So I've had to delete that bit. So you've missed most of the embellishment, actually all of it. I'll talk you through. I've literally just added some frames and bits around my photos. So I've picked out anything I have found in grey, light blue and light green, and I've mainly used some old Cocoa Vanilla Studio collections. So I've got Wild at Heart and Bohemian Dream, and I've picked out some bits from each of those. So I've got a few frames behind my photos. There was kind of like a doily ephemera piece that was blue and white. I've cut that in half and popped half either side of my photos. I've got a circular ephemera piece that says Dream Big, and I've added some blue vellum leaves behind that with a thread tangle. I've added a couple of butterflies and leaves, and then on the right hand side of the word Snowdrops, I've added a chipboard frame from a Pinkfresh Studio collection, and it says, "This is my favourite chapter in our story." So I've added that as well to the right, and there's a couple of thread tangles, as I say. And then I decided I wanted something top and bottom of my layout. So I've made a cut in my cardstock and rolled the edges back, and then I'm backing that area with the same patterned paper and vellum that I used for the word Snowdrops, so for my letters. So it just brings in a bit more of that patterned paper and adds something to the top and bottom of the layout. And then I'm just finishing off with a couple of enamel dots. I think these are from my Pinkfresh Studio collection, but I've just got a couple of kind of like minty green and pale blue. And that's my layout finished. So apologies for the missing section of footage. I'll try and show you as much as I can in the close-ups. Please do pop over to the Peartree Cutfiles Facebook group if you're not already a member. You'll get loads of inspiration there. We have weekly freebies, and we've also started up a monthly crop as well now on the last Saturday of the month. So pop your drawing request over, and they're also on Instagram, Facebook and Pinterest. So I'll leave you with the close-ups, but thanks very much for watching.